My parents threatened to have me arrested for raising my own little sister. They told me to know my place. But they didn't know I had already found the hidden trust account they had been draining for years. Then I discovered my signature on a legal document I had never signed. And when I finally found out why my name was there, I realized my parents weren't the only ones hiding the truth. If you were in my position, would you keep digging, or walk away to protect yourself? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe for more family betrayal stories where the truth changes everything. The police officer standing on my porch did not come to arrest me. He came to tell me my parents wanted him to. My name is Vera Quillen. I was 26, worked as a compliance analyst in Belmere, and lived on Alder Street with my 12-year-old sister Nimri. For 11 months I packed her lunches, drove her to school and took her to therapy. My parents, Auric and Celine Quillen, lived 40 minutes away at Hawthorne Ridge. They had signed the papers that put Nimri in my care. Now they wanted her back. And they were willing to call the police to make it happen. I was cutting an apple for Nimri's lunch when she came downstairs carrying a white envelope. Vera, what's wrong? Dad said you have to sign this. She put the envelope beside my coffee. Inside was a legal document from a family law office. My parents were demanding that Nimri return to Hawthorne Ridge immediately. They claimed I had interfered with their parental rights. They had signed a residential care agreement when they asked me to take Nimri. Did Dad say anything else? She shook her head. My phone rang. Put Nimri on, Celine said. No. You will return her by Friday. Why? Because she belongs with her parents. You haven't acted like that for almost a year. Silence. Then she said, know your place, Vera. I looked at Nimri. What happens if I don't? My mother's voice became cold. We will report you for custodial interference. You could be arrested. The call ended. Nimri's eyes filled with tears. Are they going to take me away? No one is taking you anywhere this morning. Did I do something? No. This isn't your fault. I tried to work normally that day, but one question kept returning. Why now? My parents had missed her last presentation and birthday. My mother had cancelled 2 visits. Then suddenly they wanted her back badly enough to threaten me with jail. Something had changed. That afternoon I drove Nimri to Northbridge Family Services. Her counselor, Dr. Ilian Voss, listened while I explained the call. Your parents formally transferred primary residential care to you, he said. I know. They cannot simply rewrite that arrangement because they changed their minds. That's what I thought. He hesitated. There is something else. Nimri mentioned your father has been asking her about a financial account. What account? She didn't know. She called it her future fund. That evening I asked Nimri about it. Dad asked you about money. She pushed peas around her plate. He asked if you had found the blue notebook. What blue notebook? The one from his study. Did you take it? She nodded. A minute later, she returned with a small blue notebook. Most pages contained dates, numbers, and initials. Then I found Nimri's full name. Under was a bank account number. Beneath that was one sentence. Do not let Vera find out. I read it. What does it mean? Nimri asked. I don't know. But I knew this much. My parents had threatened to have me arrested, and the first clue explaining their urgency was sitting in my hands. The next morning I took the notebook to a bank in downtown Belmere. The manager, Calder Wren, examined it. I can't discuss this without authorization. I showed him the custody papers. He studied them, then closed the office door. This is a protected beneficiary account. Is it Nimri's? Yes. Relief came first. Then he added, but she's not the account holder. Who is? Your father is listed as fiduciary administrator. I stared. Can he withdraw the money? Under certain conditions. Has he? Calder didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. How much? I can't provide the full history without a court order. I can tell you there have been significant withdrawals. When? The first was 18 months ago. That was before Nimri came to live with me. How many? Several. By my father. I can't confirm transaction details. I left confused. That afternoon, I met Marissa Lowen, a former financial crimes prosecutor who handled guardianship disputes. She read both documents. Why did your parents transfer Nimri to you? They said they needed time. Financial problems. I don't know. Do you know what the account is worth? No. Maris tapped the notebook. And your father never told you about it? Never. She leaned back. Then I wouldn't treat the arrest threat as a custody issue. What would you call it? A pressure tactic. Why pressure me? Because you have something they need. What? Access. Information. Or both. That evening I drove to Hawthorne Ridge. My father opened the door. Auric Quillen was 61 and rarely raised his voice. Growing up, a quiet sentence from him could silence a room. You shouldn't have come. I found the notebook. His face changed for a second. Give it to me. No. I want answers. You have no idea what you're interfering with. Is there money in Nimri's name? He said nothing. Did you take it? No. Did Mom? Again silence. Then my father said, the money was never supposed to be Nimri's. I stared at him. Then whose is it? Before he could answer, my mother appeared. She looked at the notebook. For once, Celine Quillen looked frightened. Vera, she whispered, you need to leave. Mom, what's going on? She looked at my father, then back at me. If you keep digging, they won't just threaten you with arrest. Who won't? She didn't answer. My father stepped forward. Give me the notebook. I backed toward the door. No. Then my mother said something I never expected. Your father didn't create that account. Froze. Then who did? She swallowed. Someone who expected us to protect the money. Protect it from who? Her eyes dropped. From people like us. I walked out. Before I reached my car, my phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent me a photograph. Showed a trust document. At the bottom was a signature that looked exactly like mine. The date was 11 years earlier. I was 17. And beneath my name was a sentence that made my stomach drop. Beneficiary trust. Authorized by Vera Quillen. The signature on that document looked like mine. That was the part one couldn't explain. I sat in my car outside Hawthorne Ridge with the photograph open on my phone, zooming in until the letters blurred. The document claimed I had authorized a beneficiary trust when I was 17. I had not. At 17, I was finishing high school, working weekends at a grocery store, and saving for college. I barely understood what a trust was. Called Maris. She answered on the second ring. Tell me you didn't sign anything. I didn't. Good. Don't touch the original if you find it. I only have a photograph. Send it to me. I did. A few seconds passed. Then she said, where did you get this? Someone sent it anonymously. Does the document have a notary seal? Yes. Read me the name. I looked closer. Edrin Sable. Maris went quiet. Do you know him? He was a notary in Darrow Heights. He retired years ago. Can we find his records? Yes. Tomorrow morning. I barely slept that night. Nimri was asleep in her room when I checked on her around midnight. I stood in the doorway and watched her breathing. I kept thinking about my parents' threat. They hadn't said, come home because we miss you. They had said, come home or we'll have you arrested. Now I understood why they were desperate to know whether I had found the notebook. At 7 the next morning, I drove Nimri to school and went straight to the county archive in Darrow Heights. Maris was waiting outside. Inside, a clerk searched the old notarial records. Edrin Sable, she said. His records were transferred here after retirement. She brought us 3 heavy ledgers. We found the date from the trust document. There it was. The entry listed me as the signer. Beside it was a witness. Celine Quillen. My mother. I felt my chest tighten. She witnessed my signature. Maris shook her head. Look at the identification note. I read it. Signer appeared underage. Identification provided by guardian. Guardian, I said. My father. No. The name below it was unfamiliar. Revenge. Who is he? The clerk searched an old database. Accountant. Worked for a charitable foundation. What foundation? She turned the monitor toward us. The Kest Family Relief Trust. Maris immediately recognized the name. I remember this case. What case? She lowered her voice. The foundation was investigated for fraudulent beneficiary accounts. I stared at the screen. Was my father involved? Maris searched the archived reports. Then she stopped. Yes. The room seemed suddenly too small. Auric Quillen's name appeared in the investigation. Not as the accused. As an administrator connected to several accounts. Called my mother. She didn't answer. Called my father. He answered immediately. Where are you? Why? Because you have been asking questions that could put you in danger. Did you use my identity when I was 17? Silence. Who told you that? The notary record. You need to stop. No. You need to explain. You don't understand what Rovan Kest was doing. Then explain it. He was trying to protect money. From whom? My father hung up. Maris took the phone from my hand. Don't call him again. Why? Because he just confirmed the connection. By noon we were back in Belmere. Maris filed an emergency request to protect Nimri's financial interests while we investigated the account. The response from my parents came less than 3 hours later. Their attorney accused me of manipulating Nimri and interfering with their family. Then my mother sent me a message. Withdraw the petition. I stared at the screen. A second message appeared. You don't know what you're starting. I didn't reply. Instead I went to pick up Nimri. She was waiting near the school entrance. When she saw my face, she knew something was wrong. What happened? I found the person who notarized that document. Was it Dad? No. Mom. She witnessed it. Nimri stopped walking. She did. Yes. She looked down. Vera, there's something else. What? Dad called me last night. My stomach tightened. What did he say? He asked if you had the blue notebook. What did you tell him? That I gave it to you. She started crying. He said if I didn't come home, he'd make sure you went to prison. I crouched in front of her. Listen to me. None of this is your responsibility. But they're fighting because of me. No. They're fighting because of something they don't want us to find. She wiped her face. What? I don't know yet. That answer was becoming harder to live with. The following morning I went to my office. Before I reached my desk, my supervisor, Jorin Pell, asked me to come into a conference room. He had a file waiting. I received a complaint about you. From whom? He slid the papers across the table. The complaint accused me of falsifying company expenses. Attached was a copy of my employment records. The person who filed it was listed as Auric Quillen. I stared at the page. My father sent this. Yes. He doesn't work here. I know. Then how did he get my records? Jorin didn't answer. I opened the complaint. Every allegation was false. The amounts were wrong. The dates were wrong. And one supposedly fraudulent expense had actually been approved by Jorin himself. This is retaliation, I said. It looks that way. Are you firing me? No. I looked at him. But I'm placing you on administrative leave while we investigate. I left the office furious. For the first time, I understood the shape of what my parents were doing. They weren't attacking one problem. They were attacking every part of my life. My home. My job. My relationship with Nimri. My credibility. They wanted me isolated. That afternoon Maris called. We found the notary. Edrin Sable. Yes. Where is he? Retirement community in West Holden. We drove there together. Edrin was 82, thin and hard of hearing. When Maris showed him the trust document, he adjusted his glasses. I remember this. You remember Vera? He looked at me. No. My heart sank. Then who signed it? He pointed to the signature. This girl was not the person sitting in front of me. I stared at him. What? The person who signed this was younger. Do you remember who brought her? Edrin frowned. A man. Rowan Kest. He nodded slowly. Yes. Was my mother there? Yes. Was my father there? No. That was the first surprise. My father had not been in the room. Why did you accept the signature? Edrin looked ashamed. I was told her guardian had approved it. Who told you? He opened his mouth, then stopped. I don't remember. Maris leaned forward. Mr. Sable, someone used my client's identity. We need to know who brought that girl here. Edrin rubbed his forehead. I remember one thing. What? She was crying. Felt cold. Why? She kept saying she wanted to go home. Where was she from? I don't know. Then Edrin reached for a drawer. He removed an old appointment book. A name had been written beside the trust signing. Not mine. Not my mother's. Not my father's. Tavern Sloan. Maris took a photograph. Who is Tavern Sloan? Edrin shook his head. I don't know. We left the retirement community at sunset. In the car, Maris searched the name. The result appeared almost immediately. Tavern Sloan was not a lawyer. Not an accountant. Not a banker. He was a child. He had been one of the original beneficiaries of the Kest Family Relief Trust. And according to a school record, he had lived at the same residential facility as another child listed in the old trust documents. A child named Nimri Quillen. I stared at the screen. Nimri knew these people. No, Maris said. Not necessarily. Then why are their names connected? She didn't answer. That night, I returned home to find the front door unlocked. Froze. I always locked it. I stepped inside and called Nimri's name. No answer. Her bedroom door was open. Nothing appeared missing. My laptop was still on the desk. My wallet was untouched. Then I saw the kitchen table. The blue notebook was gone. In its place was a single sheet of paper. 3 words were written across it. Stop asking questions. Called the police. Detective Haroon Vale arrived within 20 minutes. He examined the house and asked whether anything else had disappeared. No. Are you sure? He nodded. Then my phone rang. It was Nimri's school. My sister had already been signed out. The person who collected her had identified himself as our father. I looked at Detective Vale. He immediately stood. Where is your sister supposed to be? I gave him the address of Hawthorne Ridge. He shook his head. She's not there. Then where is she? He looked at me. We're tracing the vehicle now. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from my father. Photograph. Nimri was sitting in a chair. She wasn't injured, but she looked terrified. Under the photograph was one sentence. You wanted the truth. Come to Larkhaven alone. I looked at Detective Vale. Then at Maris. Neither of them spoke. Because we all understood the same thing. My parents hadn't just taken Nimri. They had taken her somewhere they believed the law couldn't reach. And whatever was waiting for me in Larkhaven was connected to the signature I had never written. I had never been more afraid of my father than I was when he told me to come alone. Not because I believed he would hurt me. 'Cause he had my sister. Detective Haroon Vale blocked the driver's door when I reached for my keys. You're not going to Larkhaven alone. He told me to. That is exactly why you won't. Maris stood beside him, already making calls. Vera listened to me. If your father wanted a private conversation, he wouldn't have taken Nimri. He wants me to stop investigating. Then we make sure he understands that taking a child won't erase evidence. I looked at the photograph again. Nimri was sitting in an unfamiliar room. Her hands were visible. There were no restraints. She looked frightened but physically unharmed. I zoomed in. Behind her was a wooden cabinet. On top sat a small brass clock. I recognized it. The old Lockhaven house. Maris looked at me. You've been there. My grandparents owned it. My parents said they sold it years ago. Haroon picked up his phone. Then that's where we're going. 40 minutes later, 3 vehicles left Belmere. I rode with Maris. Detective Vale followed. 2 other officers took a separate route. The old Quillen property sat beyond a narrow road outside Lockhaven, surrounded by empty lots and overgrown fields. The house looked abandoned from the road. The front door was unlocked. We entered. Nimri! Shouted. No answer. Haroon raised a hand. Everyone stopped. Then we heard a voice from upstairs. Vera! Ran. Haroon followed. Nimri was sitting in a bedroom. She jumped up when she saw me. I hugged her so tightly she complained she couldn't breathe. I thought you were coming alone, she whispered. I lied. She almost smiled. Then she pointed toward the hallway. Dad is downstairs. Haroon immediately moved ahead. We found Auric in the dining room. He wasn't holding a weapon. He wasn't angry. He was sitting at the table with a folder in front of him. I knew you'd bring someone, he said. You took my sister. I brought her somewhere safe. You signed her out of school without permission. You've been filling her head with accusations. I stepped forward. You threatened me with arrest. Because you wouldn't listen. You've been attacking my job. I wanted you to stop. Why? He looked at Maris. Because you don't understand what you're uncovering. Maris folded her arms. Then explain it. My father looked at me. The trust was created to protect children. By Rowan Kest. Yes. Then why did you tell me the money wasn't supposed to be Nimri's? Because it wasn't originally. That answer stopped me. What does that mean? My father opened the folder. Inside were copies of old beneficiary records. There were 6 names. Nimri was one of them. Rowan discovered that several children had inherited money through estates and settlements, he said. Adults around them were taking it. So he created the trust. Yes. And you administered it. For a period. Then why did the money disappear? He looked away. I noticed something. His hands were shaking. Dad! He didn't answer. My mother entered the room. I hadn't realized she was there. Celine looked at me. Then at Nimri. Then at the police. You weren't supposed to come with them. I wasn't supposed to come at all, I said. You took my sister. My mother closed her eyes. I know. That was the first time she had admitted it. Maris stepped forward. Where is the financial documentation? My father laughed. You think the notebook proves everything? It proves enough to start. No. It proves almost nothing. Pulled out my phone. The bank confirmed the protected account. His expression changed. You went to the bank. Yes. Who spoke to you? Calder Wren. My father's face became pale. Then he turned toward my mother. You told her. I didn't. Then who did? My mother didn't answer. I looked between them. Something was wrong. My parents weren't acting like 2 people protecting the same secret. They were acting like 2 people protecting themselves from each other. Haroon noticed it too. Mr. Quillen, he said, I need to ask you about the account. My father stood. You don't have jurisdiction here. This is still Belmere County property. No. Everyone went silent. What? My father pointed toward the wall. This house isn't ours. I stared at him. You said you sold it. We did. To whom? He didn't answer. My mother whispered. Rowan. Turn. What? Rowan Kest purchased the property through a holding company. Then why are we here? My mother looked at the floor. Because the property was never really sold. That made no sense. Until Maris noticed the framed photograph above the fireplace. She removed it. Behind it was a small safe. What's inside? My father said nothing. Haroon opened it after securing the proper authorization. Inside were several envelopes. The first contained property deeds. The second contained bank statements. The third contained photographs. I opened one. It showed 6 children standing together outside a residential facility. Nimri was in the photograph. She looked about 4 years old. I stared at it. Nimri was here. My mother shook her head. No. Then why is she in this photograph? I don't know. I opened another photograph. The same children. A different year. Nimri again. Then another. She appeared in at least 4 photographs. But I had never seen any of them. My father finally spoke. She wasn't supposed to be in those photographs. What does that mean? He looked at Maris. Rovan believed someone was using the children's identities before the trust was created. Who? We never found out. Felt confused. Then why did you threaten me? Because the person who started it may still be involved. Who? My father didn't answer. My mother did. Darian Pell. Maris immediately looked up. The foundation director. Yes. But he disappeared years ago. He didn't disappear, my mother said. He went into hiding. Haroon asked. Where? My mother shook her head. I don't know. My father suddenly grabbed one of the envelopes. That's enough. He tried to leave. Haroon stopped him. Not yet. My father looked at him. You don't understand. Then help me understand. My father stared at the documents. Then he said something that changed everything. Darian wasn't stealing from the children. Maris frowned. Then what was he doing? He was trying to expose someone inside the foundation. Who? My father looked directly at my mother. She flinched. I couldn't move. Mom, she whispered. I didn't start it. What did you do? I signed documents. Which documents? The ones your father gave me. My father shouted. Don't. She turned toward him. I've been afraid of you for 20 years. The room went silent. Then my mother walked to the table and opened another envelope. Inside were bank transfer instructions. She placed them in front of me. These are copies I kept. I looked at the dates. The withdrawals matched the bank manager's description. But there was something strange. Some transfers had been reversed. Money had been taken, then returned, taken again, moved between accounts. I looked at my mother. Why? Because I tried to stop him. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I knew he would come after you. He already did. She looked ashamed. I know. I turned another page. One transfer caught my attention. It was dated 2 weeks before Nimri moved into my house. The amount was enormous. But the destination account wasn't my father's. It belonged to a company I had never heard of. Quillen Family Holdings. What's this? My father went silent. Maris took the paper. She read the account details. Then she looked at me. This company owns 3 properties. Which ones? Check. Hawthorne Ridge. I swallowed. The Larkhaven House. My stomach tightened. And a third property. Where? Maris looked at the address. West Holden. My father's face changed. That was the first time I saw genuine panic. What is in West Holden? He didn't answer. My mother did. Records. What records? Everything Rovan kept. Haroon immediately called for another unit. My father tried to stop him. You can't go there. Why? Because it's not safe. Maris looked at him. Why would financial records be unsafe? My father didn't answer. Then Nimri spoke from the doorway. Because Dad went there last week. Everyone turned toward her. My father stared at his daughter. Nimri, she continued. He told me not to tell Vera. What did you see? She hesitated. A room full of boxes. Anything else? She nodded. There was a computer. What was on it? I don't know. She looked at me. But I saw your name. My heart stopped. My name? Yes. Where? On a folder. What did it say? Nimri frowned, trying to remember. Then she said, Vera Quillen, original beneficiary. No one spoke. I looked at Maris. The forged signature had always been the central mystery. But now there was something worse. A document from when I was 17. A photograph proving Nimri had been connected to the trust years before I knew it existed. A hidden property containing records. And a folder describing me as an original beneficiary. I turned toward my father. You told me the money wasn't supposed to be Nimri's. He didn't answer. You told me I didn't understand. Still nothing. Was the money supposed to be mine? My father finally looked at me. And for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. No. Then whose? He lowered his voice. Yours and Nimri's. I stared at him. What? My mother began crying. My father continued. The trust wasn't created for your sister. He pointed toward the old documents. It was created for both of you. Maris took a slow breath. Then why was Vera's identity used without her knowledge? My father looked at the floor. Because you were supposed to be the first beneficiary. I couldn't speak. My entire understanding of my family had just shifted. The money wasn't simply something my parents had taken from Nimri. It was connected to me too. And if my father was telling the truth, then the person who had forged my signature had been trying to erase my ownership before I was old enough to know I had it. Haroon's phone rang. He listened for several seconds. Then he looked at us. The West Holden property has been entered recently. By whom? He asked. We don't know. He paused. But someone left a message on the door. What message? Haroon looked at me. It says, Vera Quillen already knows too much. I felt the room go cold. Because whoever had entered that property wasn't my father. And they knew my name. The message on the West Holden door changed the investigation overnight. Until then, I had believed my parents were the center of the problem. Now I wasn't sure they were. Someone else knew my name. Someone else knew about the property. And someone had entered a locked building before the police arrived. Detective Haroon Vale sent 2 officers to secure the West Holden property, while Maris and I stayed at the Larkhaven house with Nimri. My father wanted to leave. Haroon stopped him. You're not going anywhere until we clarify your involvement. My father glared at him. You're making a mistake. Then you'll have nothing to worry about. My mother sat at the dining table with her hands folded. She looked exhausted. I sat across from her. Tell me everything. She shook her head. I've already told you too much. No. You told me enough to make me afraid. I need the rest. My father looked at her. Celine. She didn't look at him. I can't keep doing this. What did you sign? Yes. My mother took a breath. Years ago, your father told me there was a trust created by Rowan Kest. He said it was complicated and temporary. He said the children involved would eventually receive their money. Did you believe him? At first. And later. I saw the withdrawals. How much? I don't know the exact total. You must have known. I knew money was moving. I didn't know where all of it went. Why didn't you stop him? Her eyes filled with tears. Because by then I had signed too many documents. I leaned forward. What documents? Authorization forms. Property transfers. Account changes. Using my name. She nodded. The room became silent. Did you forge my signature? No. Then who did? I don't know. My father stood. That's enough. Haroon immediately stepped between us. Sit down. My father obeyed. I looked at him. You said the trust was created for me and Nimri. Yes. Then why did you tell me the money wasn't supposed to be hers? Because the original arrangement was different. How? He rubbed his face. When Rowan created the trust, he wanted the funds divided between several children. But some beneficiaries disappeared from the records. disappeared. Names were removed. By whom? We never proved it. Maris looked at him. Who had access? My father hesitated. Rovan. Darian Pell. The Foundation's legal administrator. Anyone else? My wife. My mother looked at him. You're blaming me now. No. You always do. Their argument stopped when Haroon's phone rang. He answered. Vale. He listened. His expression changed. Don't touch anything. I'm on my way. He hung up. What happened? Asked. The officers found something at West Holden. What? A hidden room. My father closed his eyes. I knew immediately. You knew it was there. He didn't answer. Maris stood. Take us there. Haroon shook his head. It's a crime scene. I need to see it. No. I almost argued. Then Nimri spoke. I know where it is. Everyone turned toward her. You've been there. My father looked horrified. Nimri nodded. Dad took me there once. When? Before I moved in with Vera. Why? He said he needed me to remember something. I looked at my father. What did you make her remember? He wouldn't answer. Nimri continued. There was a wall with children's names. What names? She looked at me. Mine. And mine. My hands went cold. What else? There was another name. Whose? I don't remember. He paused. Actually, I do. What? She whispered it. Vera Kest. I stared at her. That isn't my name. I know. Maris looked at my father. Who is Vera Kest? He stood completely still. My mother began crying again. My father finally said, no one. But the answer came too quickly. Noticed. So you know the name. He looked at me. It's an old mistake. What kind of mistake? Someone used your name. Why would someone use my name with a different surname? He said nothing. Haroon interrupted. We're going to West Holden. This time he allowed Maris to come. I stayed behind with Nimri. I didn't want her anywhere near the property. For the next hour I waited. At 5:18 p.m., Haroon called. We found the room. What is inside? Records. Anything about me? Yes. My heart sank. What? Come to the station. He wouldn't say more. An hour later, Maris arrived at my townhouse. She looked shaken. That alone frightened me. What did you find? She placed a folder on my table. This was inside the hidden room. Opened it. The first page contained my full legal name. Vera Quillen. Underneath was my date of birth. My mother's name. My father's name. Then came a line I had never seen before. Original beneficiary. Vera Kest. I looked at Maris. Why does this keep appearing? We don't know yet. Then find out. We are. I turned the page. There were photographs. Me as a child. Nimri as a baby. My parents. Rovan Kest. Darian Pell. And another woman. I didn't recognize her. She was standing beside my mother outside a hospital. I turned the photograph over. A date was written on the back. The day Nimri was born. Who is she? Maris examined it. We're checking. The next page contained hospital records. My sister's birth was normal. But beneath her name was another notation. Secondary guardian Vera Kest. I stared at it. That's impossible. Maris nodded. Unless you had another legal identity. I didn't. Then someone created one. I sat down. For the first time, I understood why my father had always treated my childhood records so carefully. Why I had never been allowed to see certain family documents. Why my mother had refused to discuss the year Nimri was born. There was something buried in that year. Something connected to me. That night, I searched my own childhood memories. There was one thing I had always thought was insignificant. When I was 17, my parents had told me that my birth certificate needed to be corrected. They took the original away for several days. When they returned it, I never checked it. I had trusted them. Now I wondered what had been changed. The next morning, I requested a certified copy from the county records office. It arrived that afternoon. I opened it at Maris's office. Everything looked normal. Name, my parents, my birth date. Then Maris noticed the registration number. This isn't the original series. What does that mean? Your birth record was amended. When? Check. 2 months before Nimri was born. My stomach dropped. Why? We need the amendment file. We requested it. The county clerk brought the sealed file. Inside was a correction request signed by my father. The reason stated: administrative error concerning maternal surname. But the correction wasn't my surname. It changed the designation of my original beneficiary identity. The original record had listed Vera Kest Quillen. The amended record listed Vera Quillen. I looked at Maris. Why would my middle surname matter? Because Kest may not be a family name. What is it? She looked at the old trust records. It may have been a legal beneficiary designation. I didn't understand. Then she found another document. A letter from Rowan Kest. It was addressed to someone named Vera Kest. The letter was dated 1 week before my birth. I read the first line. If you are reading this, the trust has already been activated. My hands began shaking. I read further. Your parents have been told only what they need to know. Then another line. You are not the beneficiary because of your surname. I looked up. Then why? Maris continued reading. Because you were selected. Selected for what? She turned the page. The rest had been blacked out. Not by the police. By an old legal office. Someone had deliberately redacted the explanation. I was about to ask another question when my phone rang. It was my mother. Answered. Mom. Her voice was barely audible. Vera, don't trust the records. What? They were changed. By Dad. No. Then who? She started crying. The woman in the photograph. I looked at the photograph on Maris's desk. The unidentified woman beside my mother. Who is she? My mother whispered. Your father's sister. Froze. My aunt. She died before you were born. Then why is she in a photograph taken when Nimri was born? She didn't. I stared at the picture. What do you mean? That photograph was taken before Nimri was born. Check the date. My mother was right. The date on the back was wrong. The woman had been standing beside my mother during a hospital visit months earlier. Before Nimri's birth. Before my identity was supposedly amended. My mother whispered again. Your father told everyone she died. Why? Because she knew where the original trust came from. The call suddenly ended. Called back. No answer. I looked at Maris. We need to find her. She may actually be dead. Then why did Mom say she knew where the trust came from? Maris picked up the photograph. She examined the woman carefully. Then she turned it over. There was another name written beneath the date. Ilara Quillen. Maris searched the county records. 5 minutes later she found something. Ilara Quillen had not died. She had disappeared. But her last known address was not far away. It was in a small coastal town called Meerwick. And according to the property database, she still owned a house there. Before we could leave, Detective Vale called. His voice was serious. Vera, I need you to come to the station. Why? We found the original trust registry. Where? In the hidden room. Is my name in it? Yes. What's different? There was a pause. Your name isn't the first one listed. I gripped the phone. Whose is first? Haroon answered quietly. Your father's sister. I looked at Maris. Ilara Quillen. The woman everyone said had died before I was born. The woman who apparently created the identity Vera Kest. And if the original registry was accurate, then my parents had spent years hiding the identity of the person who could explain exactly why my sister and I were placed inside a trust we had never known existed. Packed a bag that night. Meerwick was 3 hours away. Before I left, another message appeared on my phone. This time there was no photograph. Only a sentence. If you go looking for Ilara, ask her why your parents needed you to disappear first. The house in Meerwick had no reason to still belong to Ilara Quillen. According to my father, she had been dead for more than 20 years. According to the county records, she was alive. And according to the message on my phone, she was the only person who could explain why my parents had needed me to disappear. I drove to Meerwick before sunrise with Maris beside me. Detective Haroon Vale followed in a separate vehicle. Nimri stayed with a trusted family friend in Belmere. I hated leaving her behind, but this time I needed answers before putting her anywhere near another part of this mess. The coastal town was quiet when we arrived. Ilara's house stood at the end of a narrow street overlooking the harbor. It was small, painted white, and surrounded by a low wooden fence. No lights were on. Maris checked the address again. This is it. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Then a woman's voice came from inside. Who are you? My name is Vera Quillen. Silence. I need to speak with Ilara. Another pause. Then the door opened. The woman standing there was older, maybe 70. Her gray hair was tied back, and she looked directly at me without surprise. You look like your mother. I couldn't move. Are you Ilara? Yes. My throat tightened. My father told me you died. I know. Why? She opened the door wider. Because he needed me to be dead. Maris stepped forward. We're here about the Kest Trust. Ilara looked at her. Then you already know too much. We know there was a trust involving Vera and Nimri. Ilara's eyes returned to me. No. You don't know what the trust was for. She stepped aside. Come in. The house was modest. There were bookshelves along one wall and old photographs arranged above a fireplace. One photograph stopped me. It showed my father as a young man. Beside him stood Ilara. Between them was Rowan Kest. And in front of them were several children. I recognized Nimri. But I also recognized myself. I was much younger. Maybe 6. I turned toward Ilara. Why am I in this photograph? Because you were part of the trust long before you knew it existed. When was this taken? 3 years before your sister was born. I stared at the picture. That can't be right. It is. Why don't I remember? Because your father didn't want you to. Maris looked at Ilara. Start at the beginning. Ilara sat down. I was your father's older sister. Rowan was my closest friend. He discovered that several families were using children's identities to move money without paying taxes or exposing the source of the funds. What kind of money? Settlement money. Inheritance money. Donations. Everything that adults could hide behind a child's name. So Rowan created the trust. Yes. And my father was involved. At first he helped. Ilara folded her hands. Then he realized how much money was passing through the system. What happened? He started moving funds. Into his own accounts. Not directly. He was smarter than that. Then where? Property companies. Education funds. Private investments. Maris asked. Did Ilara? She stopped herself. You are Ilara. Yes. Why didn't you report him? Ilara looked at me. Because your father had already made one person disappear. Felt cold. Who? Rowan Kest. I stared at her. Rowan died. That is what the records say. What actually happened? He disappeared first. His death was reported later. Who reported it? Your father. Maris immediately took out her phone. Do you have evidence? Lara nodded. She walked to a cabinet and removed a metal box. Inside were letters, bank statements, and an old audio recorder. I kept copies. She placed the recorder on the table. This is Rowan's final message. She pressed play. A man's voice filled the room. If anything happens to me, the trust must remain protected. Auric knows about the accounts. He believes he can control them. He cannot. The recording crackled. Then Rowan continued. There are 2 children whose identities must remain protected above all others. I looked at Ilara. The recording continued. Vera and Nimri. My breathing stopped. Rowan had named us. Years before Nimri was born. That meant the trust had been planned around us. But why? Ilara answered before I asked. Your mother was pregnant with Nimri when Rowan made the final arrangements. That doesn't explain me. No. She reached into the box again. This time she pulled out a hospital record. My name was written on it. But beside my name was another designation. Primary beneficiary. Vera Kest. I stared at it. What is Vera Kest? Ilara looked directly at me. Your original legal identity. My identity. Yes. That doesn't make sense. It will. She explained that Kest was not originally a surname. It was a protected beneficiary designation used for children whose biological families could not safely control their assets. Rowan had assigned the designation to me because he believed my parents might eventually try to access the money. So my parents weren't supposed to control the trust? No. Then why did they? Because Rowan disappeared. And my father took over. Yes. What about my mother? Ilara looked away. She knew enough to be afraid. I remembered my mother's face at Larkhaven. She had not looked surprised by the records. She had looked guilty. Did Mom help Dad? Yes. Did she forge my signature? No. Then who did? Ilara was silent. Tell me. I did. I couldn't speak. Maris looked shocked. You forged Vera's signature. I created the beneficiary document. Why? Because the original trust was under threat. Ilara explained that she had used my identity to create a protected layer around the account. The signature wasn't meant to authorize my parents. It was meant to prevent them from gaining direct control. But why does the signature look like mine? I studied your handwriting. Felt angry. You used me without telling me. I was trying to protect you. You made me look like a criminal. I know. Do you understand what they did with that document? Lara nodded. Your father altered the filing. That sentence changed everything. He took the protective document and turned it into evidence that you had voluntarily transferred your rights. Maris looked at me. That explains the altered copy. I sat down. For years, I had believed the forged signature was the beginning of the problem. It wasn't. It had been part of a protection scheme that my father later corrupted. But there was still one question. Why did Dad need me to disappear? Ilara looked at me for several seconds. Because when you turned 21, the trust changed. How? You became an adult beneficiary. And you could demand an independent audit. Understood. My father had spent years controlling the accounts because the beneficiaries were minors. Once I became an adult, he needed to prevent me from asking questions. So he waited. Yes. And when Nimri came of age, she would have the same rights. Yes. I looked at the documents. That explains why he wanted her back now. Lara nodded. He needed access to her before the court could freeze the account. Maris stood. Then the remaining money is still in danger. Ilara shook her head. Not all of it. What do you mean? There is another account. I stared at her. Where? Under your name. My heart began pounding. Where? I don't know. Maris frowned. You created it. Yes. Then how don't you know? Because Rowan gave control of the location to someone else. Who? Ilara looked at me. Your mother. Felt sick. Mom. She was supposed to tell you when you were 21. But she didn't. No. Why? Ilara looked toward the window. Because your father found out. Car passed outside. Ilara stopped speaking. I noticed her expression. What? She whispered. Someone is outside. Haroon immediately moved toward the window. A dark sedan was parked across the street. The engine was running. Then it drove away. Haroon called the license plate into his radio. We'll find out who owns it. Lara stood. You can't stay here. Why? Because if they found me, they know you found me too. I gathered the documents. I'm not leaving without answers. You have enough to understand the danger. No. I have enough to know my parents lied to me. Ilara reached for my hand. Vera, listen carefully. Your father is not the only person who knows about the account. Who else? The person who helped him move the money. Darian Pell. No. Waited. Ilara's voice dropped. Someone inside your own family. My phone rang. It was Detective Vale. Answered. We ran the plate on the sedan. Who owns it? He paused. The registered owner is Celine Quillen. My mother. I looked at Ilara. She closed her eyes. She knew I was here. Why would Mom follow us? Ilara whispered. Because she isn't trying to stop you. Then what is she trying to do? Before Ilara could answer, another call came through. Nimri. Answered immediately. Her voice was shaking. Vera, Mom is here. My heart stopped. Where? At the house. Are you safe? Yes, but she brought someone. Who? Nimri hesitated. Then she whispered a name I had never expected to hear again. Dad. The call went silent. A second later, another message appeared from my mother. Come home now. I finally found the person who can prove your father lied. I looked at Ilara. She was already reaching for her coat. Then we have to go back. Why? Because if Celine has finally decided to tell the truth, your father will do everything he can to stop her. I grabbed the documents. For the first time, I wasn't returning to Belmere because my parents had summoned me. I was going back because the woman who had spent years helping hide the truth was finally ready to expose it. And I still didn't know whether she was going to save my sister or destroy the last thing holding our family together. The first thing I saw when I returned to Belmere was my mother standing outside my townhouse with her hands raised. The second was my father being escorted toward a police vehicle. Then Nimri ran toward me. I got out and held her. Are you okay? She nodded. Mom told me not to be scared. I looked at Celine. What happened? He came here to take the documents, she said. My father shouted from the police vehicle. She's lying. Detective Haroon Vale closed the door. No one is going anywhere until we finish. Maris stepped out carrying Ilara's metal box. My mother saw it. You found her. Yes. She closed her eyes. Then it's finally over. Not yet, I said. Inside, Nimri sat beside me while Maris and Haroon reviewed the documents. Ilara stayed near the door. I placed the hospital photograph on the table. Tell me why you followed us. Celine looked at it. Because I knew Ilara would tell you the truth. Then why didn't you? Because I was afraid. Afraid of Dad. Yes. Only him. She hesitated. No. I was afraid of losing everything. She explained that when Auric discovered the Kess Trust, he told her it was temporary and that the money would be protected. Then he began moving funds. Why didn't you leave? By then Nimri was born. Your father controlled the accounts, the property, everything. You could have told me. You were 17. You could have told me later. I tried. When? The night before you turned 21. She handed me a folded letter. I wrote this for you. Opened it. The letter explained the trust, the Kess designation, and my right to request an independent audit. But the final paragraph had been crossed out. Who did that? Your father. Why? Because after 21, you could challenge his control. Maris looked up. Not just challenge it. She could demand an audit and restitution. My mother nodded. That is why he began calling you irresponsible. He wanted people to doubt you before you asked the right questions. The complaint against my job. The custody threat. The accusations. They were all connected. But one question remained. Where is the money? My mother looked at Ilara. Ilara answered. Some was spent. Some was recovered. The largest remaining amount is in an account only your mother can access. I turned to Celine. Where? She removed a small key from her pocket. West Holden. Maris stood. The hidden room. There is a second safe behind the server cabinet, my mother said. We drove there with a police escort. The property was secured. Officers moved the cabinet, revealing a steel safe. Key opened it. Inside were bank certificates, property deeds, and a sealed envelope addressed to me. Rowan Kest's handwriting covered the page. He explained that the trust had never been created to enrich my parents. It existed to protect children whose inherited funds were vulnerable to exploitation. Then I read the line that made me stop. I selected Vera as the first adult beneficiary because she repeatedly protected Nimri before she was old enough to understand what money could do. I looked at Maris. So the designation wasn't about my surname. No, she said. It was about trust. At the bottom was one final instruction. If Vera Quillen reaches this document, transfer administration to an independent trustee and release no funds to any family member. Exhaled. That includes me. Yes. For the first time, I wasn't angry about not controlling the money. I was relieved. I didn't want my father's money. I wanted my sister's future protected. The financial audit took months. The court traced hundreds of transactions through property companies and investment accounts. Some assets were recovered. Others were sold. Nimri's protected account was restored. The other beneficiaries received restitution. My father was charged with fraud, forgery, unlawful transfer of protected assets, and financial exploitation. The evidence was overwhelming. The forged documents, altered custody agreement, hidden records, property transfers, threats, and my mother's testimony. Celine accepted responsibility for her participation. She did not receive immunity. Her sentence was reduced because she cooperated, surrendered documents, and helped recover assets. I didn't forgive her immediately. I didn't have to. Nimri eventually chose to see her under supervision. That decision belonged to Nimri. My father asked to speak with me before sentencing. I almost refused. Then I went. He sat behind a glass partition. For the first time in my life, he looked smaller than I remembered. You destroyed this family, he said. No. Your decisions did. I was protecting what belonged to us. It never belonged to you. He looked away. You think you're better than me. No. Then why did you do all this? Because Nimri needed someone to stop being afraid. He had no answer. Understood. Before I left, he said the words I had heard since childhood. Know your place. I stopped at the door. I do. He looked up. My place is beside my sister. Not beneath you. Then I walked out. A year after the police first came to my house, Nimri and I moved into a larger apartment near her school. She had her own room. Had mine. The title was, When Adults Tell You Not to Ask Questions. I read it. You're going to make a great lawyer. No. Why not? I want to be a forensic accountant. Smiled. Of course you do. She looked at me. Do you think Dad is sorry? I don't know. Do you think Mom is? Yes. Do you forgive her? It took a moment. I received reimbursement for documented legal expenses. Nothing more. That mattered. My parents had claimed I wanted control. I didn't. I wanted my sister safe. That was the truth they could never twist. Nimri kept her future. The other beneficiaries received what had been taken from them. My mother faced her choices. My father faced the consequences of his. And I finally understood that family loyalty does not mean protecting someone from the consequences of harming you. Sometimes loyalty means protecting the person who cannot protect herself yet. That was what I filed for. Not revenge. Protection. When the final judgment was signed, I walked out of the courthouse with Nimri beside me. She looked at the building. Is it really over? Yes. For real. For real. She smiled and took my hand. We walked home. No threats. No lawyers waiting at the door. No secret envelopes. No one telling me where I belonged. Just my sister and me, finally living the ordinary life we should have had from the beginning. If this story stayed with you, subscribe for more stories about family betrayal, hidden secrets, and the kind of justice that comes when the truth is finally documented.